Hello, welcome to my channel. I am Advocate Taqir Ahmed. In the last video, we discussed the concept and development of law of contract. In addition, we have also tried to understand the different types and natures of agreements and contracts. And we have also understood the difference between contract and agreement. In this video, we will see how the process of making of contract is initiated, what is offer, what are the legal rules regarding a valid offer, and how an offer is communicated, and whether an offer can be revoked or not. We know that as a first step in concluding a contract, there must be a legal offer from one party and lawful acceptance by the other party. For example, if I offer someone to buy my car for 10 lakh rupees and he accepts the offer, a contract will be drawn up unless otherwise essential for a valid contract there. The words proposal and offer are used interchangeably. The proposal is the starting point of the conclusion of an agreement or contract. Section 2, subsection A of the Contract Act defines the proposal and determines that when one person signifies to another person his willingness to do or to abstain from doing anything with a view to obtaining the assent of that other person to such act or abstinence, he is said to make a proposal. The definition reveals the three essentials of the proposal. In first place, it's an expression of willingness to do or not to do something. Secondly, the expression of willingness to do or not to do something must be to another person. There can be no offer from a person to himself. Thirdly, the expression of willingness to do or not to do something must come in order to obtain the consent of the other person to such action or abstinence. Thus, a casual question like, "Do you intend to buy my bike?" is not a proposal. Similarly, only a statement of intent like, "I can sell my bike if I can get 50,000 rupees for it," is not a proposal. But if I say to another person, "Will you buy my bike for 50,000 rupees?" or "I'm willing to sell my bike to you for 50,000," now you see I have a legitimate proposal. It is made for the purpose of obtaining consent of another person. One important thing to note here is the person making the proposal or offer is usually called promisor or offerer, whereas the person to whom the offer is made is the offeree, and the person accepting the offer is called the promisor or acceptor. I hope you understand the concept of offer and proposal. Now we see what are the legal rules for a valid offer. An offer must be in conformity with the rules that we are going to discuss, otherwise it will not be a valid offer. First of all, an offer may be express or implied. We most often express our desire to do something or get something done by our actions or behaviors. Words are not the only medium of expression. Behavior can often convey as clearly as words a promise or a commitment to a proposed promise. An offer and acceptance does not always have to be formal, nor it is required by a contract act that consent to a contract between the parties must be in writing. Offers and acceptance can be spelled out in the form of behavior from the parties that not only covers their actions but also omissions. Now, what is an express and implied offer? So, offer expressed in words or written is called express offer, and what stems from the person's behavior or the circumstances of the case is called implied offer. Section 9 of the Contract Act declares that in so far as the proposal or acceptance of any offer is made in words, the promise is said to be expressed. In so far as such proposal or acceptance is made otherwise than in words, the promise is said to be implied. In this regard, we can say a bid at an auction is an implied offer to buy. Similarly, if you make implicit promises by stepping into an Uber or eating eatables at a self-service restaurant to pay for the benefits you enjoyed, it's also an implied offer. The Supreme Court of Pakistan in Muhammad Sattar versus Tariq Javed, where an agreement to sell was signed by the seller but not by the buyers, came into question before the court. The judge said contracts in general were not required to be reduced into writing unless otherwise specifically provided by law, and the offer and acceptance could also be implied from the parties' conduct under Section 8 and 9 of the Contract Act. Based on this principle, if I write to tell someone that I offer or am willing to sell my house to him for 80 lakh rupees, there is an express offer. But if a shoe shiner starts shining someone's shoes without being asked, any reasonable man could guess that he expects to be paid for this. He makes an implied offer. I hope you get this point. An offer can be either explicit or implied. The next important thing about a valid offer is that an offer must consider giving legal consequences and be able to create legal relationships. There are no provision in Contract Act, nor there has been any reported decision in Pakistan that requires an offer or acceptance of it to be made for the purpose of creating legal relationships. But in English law, it's a firm principle that in order to enter into a contract, the parties must have a common intention to enter into legal obligations. If the offer is not intended to give rise to legal consequences, it is not a valid offer in the eye of law. An offer to a friend to have dinner or an offer to one's wife to show her a film is not a valid offer, and as such it may not give rise to binding agreement even if it is accepted and there is a consideration. Because in social agreements or domestic agreements, the presumption is that the parties do not intend legal consequences for following the violation of the agreement. In the famous case of Balfour and Balfour, Lord Atkin explained the principle that there are agreements between parties that do not result in contract within the meaning of the term in our law. He said the common example is where two parties agreed to go for a walk together or where there is an offer and acceptance of hospitality. No one would normally suggest that these arrangements result in what we know as contracts, and one of the most common forms of agreement that does not constitute a contract appear to be the arrangements between husband and wife. These schemes do not result in a contract at all, although there may be a what will constitute consideration for the agreement. They are not contract because the parties did not intended them to have legal consequences. But in the case of agreements that regulates business transaction, the presumption is just the opposite. In business transaction, it is taken for granted that the parties intend to pursue legal consequences. Even in the case of business agreement, there is no contract if the parties agree that the breach of the agreement does not give either party the right to enforce the agreement in the court of law. Rose and Crumpton is the leading case law in this regard. The next legal rule regarding a valid offer is that the terms of the offer must be secure and not loose or vague. If the terms of the offer are not defined and certain, it does not correspond to a legal offer. In this regard, the Lord Mangum has rightly noted, unless all the material terms of the agreement are agreed, there is no binding obligation. Like if I offer someone a lavish entertainment, if he does a certain job for me, my offer is not equivalent to a legal offer because it's a vague and uncertain. Thus, an agreement to agree with us in the future is not a contract because the terms of the agreement are uncertain as they have not yet been settled. I hope you get this point. We will continue from here in the next video. Till then, goodbye.